So I wouldn't really know where to begin. It really starts kind of simple. It starts with naivety, but it really ends with something that can leave anyone stricken with the same type of illness that I have. A few years ago, I was living with my good friends and roommates when it was just another normal night. For less detail than there needs to be, there was a shooting right outside, and I was shaken up. At first, it was funny, and we laughed about it until a couple days after when I woke from a slight knock or a noise coming from somewhere, and immediately my brain just started freaking out. Ultimately, I had a panic attack and even barricaded myself in my room, unbeknownst to my roommates. And I was so naive because I thought it could never happen to me. But I was panicking over anything and everything, and days later was diagnosed with severe PTSD and panic anxiety. After that, I went through a couple years of on and off therapy with a great doctor, one of the best in New Hampshire. He was able to calm my amygdala, the fear center in the brain, to some of my triggers to everyday noises like bangs, knocks, or really anything abruptly loud. And we also found out I had a severe fear of large crowds. After going through a couple years and thousands of dollars in therapy, I finally moved the needle from the 10, that's the worst I've ever felt on that scale of 1 to 10, to a manageable 7. In July of 2018, this year, another event had occurred. I awoke to what sounded to be knocking or banging downstairs at 6 a.m. sharp, thinking it was my mother doing laundry so early in the morning. I decided not to get up to avoid confrontation so early on a Thursday before work and just decided to go back to sleep. Due to my lack of hearing and bilateral deafness, what the noise was actually our electrical panel exploding, wicket by wicket, socket by socket. I reawoke due to just the smell and feel of the thickening smoke smacking me in the face, and I woke in the biggest panic I've ever experienced tenfold. I immediately tried looking for a way out, and I was voluntarily staying in a finished basement, however, with no fire escape, just a small window for ventilation. I found out the bulkhead, and I was so confused on how to open it from the inside due to the carbon monoxide getting into my thinking that I knew for sure I was going to die. I found a shirt that I had lazily thrown to the ground the night before and used it to cover my face and ran for dear life through the smoke and fire up the stairs, falling halfway up and finally bursting through the basement door and started a blood-curdling scream that my mom would probably never forget. And it was from there on that my PTSD went from severe to life-threatening. So sleep has never been more terrifying. To be frank, I take the highest dose of medication that can be prescribed to me called Prozocin that reduces nightmares. I now have one less nightmare a week out of around 25 to 30 nightmares. To be even more transparent, every night someone in my family or friends or myself dies in a fire. I witness the entire scene, and I even stick around for the funeral of the nightmare. Even if I was the victim, I become the spectator at my own funeral. I awake in profuse sweating most nights. Sometimes I choke as I experience some symptoms of trying to breathe in a fire. Sometimes I even wake up yelling, telling my mom to get out of the house, even though in the real world, everyone is safe. So now when I experience any one of my several triggers, and that could be a bang, knock, loud noise, car door shutting, oven door shutting, phone alarm, car alarm, smoke detector, or even smelling the cooking of tonight's dinner, thinking it's a fire, my veins in my arms, my legs, my face, they turn to flames and I feel like I'm on fire. On top of all that, I also live in a 24/7 flashback. I always have the scene of the fire in my head, and of course when I have a trigger, sometimes I zone out completely and live in a daydream nightmare and someone has to wake me up. So for a couple months after the fire, I had suicidal thoughts because of how bad everything felt. And I always wanted to avoid social interaction or support, so I was lonely. I was and still am scared and fearful as I try to put out this fire that is metaphorically inside my head. I have seen several doctors so far about my condition since, and I've been put on a menu of different medications that reduces my suicidal tendencies to zero. However, it does not at all affect the way I handle triggers or my constant panic attacks and fear of sleep. So I was talking to my psychiatrist and I asked her about her thoughts on service dogs. I've had dogs my entire life and thought it might be a good fit to have a companion by my side 24/7 and being able to help me out with my panic attacks and my triggers and my flashbacks. And she agrees and stresses greatly how beneficial service dogs are to those who suffer from the same illness that I have and how they can greatly reduce the symptoms and give me more relief in my life. And after doing mountains of research, I have found out that service dogs from birth to training for specific tasks for people with PTSD cost anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000. Most of these organizations will do most of the fundraising with half of the service dog cost up front. This is why I'm asking to take a shot in the dark and asking any of my friends and family for help, even if it's just to share my story with others. I don't want to feel on fire anymore. I don't want to be unhappy and socialized and burdened with this terrible illness, and I ask if anyone can help a friend in need raise the funds necessary to help me start my next chapter with less fear. I thank you all for listening in and watching my video. It means the world to me, and nothing would mean more than just a simple share to your friends and to hopefully hear my story and can understand and identify with my illness and hopefully help me out to see a brighter future. Thank you so much for listening in.